Hi, we're the creative team behind Power Squared, and we're doing an interview online or on paper with FreakSugar, and we thought we'd at least go over the questions and have a little fun with it and have a little video made from it. So, right?
Right.
Here we go. So here are the questions. For readers considering picking up the book, what can you tell us about the conceit of Power Squared? What do you think?
Well, the conceit of Power Squared would be that it's twins discovering that they have superpowers.
Okay. Is that it? Is that okay? Because it's supposed to be like a log line explanation.
Yeah.
Right. So that's basically identical twins discovering that they have they have superpowers. These are better questions than the answers, I guess. Marty and Eli are twins and the protagonists of the series. How would you describe them and their relationship? Well, they're identical twins because you guys are identical twins.
Yeah.
And they're trying to, maneuver, becoming adults, getting out in the world. They're going away to school for the first time. They're, making new friends, meeting girls, doing the things that you do in college. At the same time, they have this. They're trying to have their own identities, but they're part of Marty and Eli, right?
Right.
But they're still trying to, become their own people. At the same time, they also have to deal with this thing that they both have, which are these superpowers. And actually, because they have slightly different superpowers, it makes them not necessarily identical twins anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But nobody else would know that. Okay. The creation of the book seems to be a family affair. How long has the idea been gestating for the series? Well, we first had the idea back in August of 2011.
Yeah.
It was following a Comic-Con. We go every year, and we were sitting on panels, and the idea would be we could make something that would get us on a panel. And what could we do at a comic book convention that would get us on a panel? Well, let's make a comic book. And so we began working on it, writing it, but it took a few years to actually find an artist that would draw it. We actually had to be in a situation where we could pay an artist to draw it, so that took some time. We made some efforts. We went to the Comic Creator Connection. We just didn't connect with somebody, and we ended up finding somebody actually on Facebook using a Comic Creator Connection site there. And so Sika Mirti was the first artist that we had, and he did the first 5 issues. We've now moved on to Rachel Wells is our artist now, doing the current issues that we're working on that aren't for publication yet. And so it's been sort of an evolving process, but it took several years to find an artist, and it took a couple years to get the artist to finish the work.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Let's see. Following up on that, Paul, David, and Trevor, which is Paul, David, and Trevor, came up with the idea behind the book. Are the relationships based on your real life experiences? Well, there's no father in this, so I'm not really part of that experience, and I'm not Uncle Brian. That's based on somebody else entirely. But how do you feel the relationship of the brothers in the book similar to your relationship, or is it not?
Well, the relationship in the book, I guess, is more based on the better part of the relationship. They do argue occasionally in the comic, as any brothers would, but it's probably not as super heated as it can get in real life.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Okay. we're trying to have they're basically they have the same sort of interests that you guys have. You're more interested in well, writing and music, and you're more interested in art. So that's why those characters are like that, right?
Yeah.
And you guys have had your own issues with identity. It was Paul and Trevor, or Trevor and Paul, right? You're like, growing up, you're always like this little group duo.
Even when we were separate.
Yeah. Right. I remember one time walking with you guys, and somebody said, "Hey, there's Paul," and no, it was just one of you. It was Trevor, actually. But it was the two of you was the instant thing they were going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a dynamic that you have to work through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think your characters are starting to deal with their own relationship with each other, and coming to, in future issues, more of coming to grips with the importance of the other person in their lives. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now that we're doing other things, it's like other students in our classes don't hardly know we exist.
Right. Then that's also part of the growing up process. Is you're developing your own identities now.
Yeah.
Right. But in college, you didn't have that problem either. You didn't have you would go to you'd go to office hours and stuff together, but
Moral support,
but you weren't like in the same classes after community college,
right?
This is basic community college. But when you went to CSUN, you were in separate, and did people necessarily know you had a twin?
You say community college?
Well, at CSUN.
Right.
At community college, you were in the same courses a lot of the times because they were the basic.
Because they had to.
Yeah, it was lucky to get freshman English, but at CSUN, did people necessarily in your classes know? Oh, you've got a twin brother.
Not really.
Yeah, and
no, unless it was like relevant.
Right.
Yeah, it hardly ever came up, and at least remember one time when someone did learn of his existence, they wanted to.
Yeah. Well, it's part of it, because you'll run into people in real life in a situation. Oh, I'm a twin, because you wouldn't know that by looking at them. There's not have the twin scar, or we're in a badge. They have half of a twin, or whatever. I'm sure triplets have the same deal.
Yeah.
But as you get older, you'll have your own identities, and people won't know necessarily. Okay, so many of the stories.
Many stories.
Many stories. I can't even read. Focus on either scientific or supernatural explanations for powers, but you seem to take from both angles, or at least examine them. Is that a fair assessment? And what was the idea behind taking that slant? Well, part of it was the idea was to combine sort of Western and Japanese storytelling.
Yeah.
And so we had the Kasune was part of that, and we wanted to have that. She grants them the powers. So there's I guess what you would call the supernatural part of it, and then we thought that as a result of getting these powers, you would be changed, and how would that change manifest itself? And so we came up with this idea of there's a compound in your blood, the Viribus compound, which I think is a Greek word, or means strength or something, or powers, I'm not sure now. Even though I found the word. And it allows, then because they have this compound in their blood, then that means that there's a scientist that could take that compound and make other people like them. And that's where Dr. Atlas comes in, which is the scientific side of things.
Yeah.
So it was sort of planned and sort of accidental at the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Check that.
Sure.
Very good. I want to say with like American comics, there's often Marvel and DC characters from certain eras, there's usually like a scientific reason for their powers.
Right.
Like Bruce Banner got radiation poisoning, essentially, or irradiated.
Right.
The Flash literally hit a wall of chemicals and got struck by lightning at the same time.
Which happens way more than you think.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and we were trying to, I guess, have a different way they got them. They weren't going to be bitten by a spider or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, it was just kind of the choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were trying to make it similar to other stories, but different at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there have been stories in folklore about twins being close mentally. Is that one reason you chose to focus on Eli and Marty as twins and take that to a fantastical degree?
Well, the core reason we went with this was because we're twins, and so that's reflected in the comic through Marty and Eli. However, some of their power of telepathy could be considered a kind of extension of the idea that twins can somehow communicate with each other mentally. When we were younger, there were people who thought we had a mental connection because we were twins.
Right. So the idea was to sort of use that as a reason why they don't realize they have these powers, because they are telepathic, and everybody thinks twins are telepathic, so they kind of buy into it because they're kids when they get these powers.
So it's just a twin thing.
Yeah, it's just a twin thing. So, and the reason we wanted to focus on twins is because they're twins, and it really wasn't something that was done in comics, right?
Yeah.
So we thought that would be kind of a different, make our comic book different, would be the fact that it was about identical twins.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, and the Kasune was part of the blending of the two kinds of stories,
Yeah.
Japanese and American.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Sure.
I want to say the only frame of reference I have for like superpowered twins are from like the Wonder Twins.
Okay.
Or
in parody.
Yeah, in parodies of Wonder Twins characters, or in Teen Titans there were these two Mexican brothers, Masti Manos.
Yeah.
However, they could move really fast as long as they were touching.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's literally only sharing one power. So I don't think it's been done to this degree.
Okay. Okay. All right. I do love Dr. Atlas. While reading the book, he felt very much in the mold of Dr. Sivana,
Yeah.
Captain Marvel's nemesis. What were the influences behind the character? Well, visually, we were trying to think of Doc Brown from Back to the Future,
Yeah.
who we all know is evil. No. But with the visual that was the idea. I don't think he really looks like Doc Brown, but that was the idea behind it.
That was a starting point.
Yeah, it was the starting point. And we were just trying to make it sort of the mad scientist character, and so I don't think there's anybody in particular that we were copying necessarily. We were just, mad scientist characters are pretty common in 50s sci-fi and stuff, so we were just kind of following along with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the idea that he's trying to take this, Verbus compound to create super soldiers is sort of like every other comic book in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So ours is just how we got there. It's a little different. But yeah, we're glad you like the character and encourage that. But there's no deep dark secret behind it.
Yeah.
So the last question is there anything that you can tease us? Oh, excuse me. Is there anything you can tease about we can expect going forward? Yes. We've actually are being close to finishing the next two issues, 6 and 7, and these are bring out in the first issue. when they're having the flashback of Dr. Atlas at Washington, where Instructor Miller hears his call for looking out for these people that present these powers. There's a couple of the people in the shot with her, or the panel with her. One of them is Dr. Brubaker, who we just have, in 3, 4, and 5 was the main villain. Also in the audience was another guy with kind of wavy hair. He shows up in the next 2 issues as Dr. Jordan. And in that issue, it's called, the story arc, it's called Kirby, Good and Evil. And it's Kirby, who's their friend, is sort of jealous of the fact that Marty and Eli are suddenly these celebrities at school and are being talked about as heroes because they've stopped a robbery and some other things. And so he's jealous of that, and Dr. Jordan feeds on that and tries to give him sort of the same powers that Marty and Eli have, which has bad results, I guess. And then in the next, we've written out, what is it, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? We're working on 13 and 14. But we've written those out, and we're introducing other villains in those, including in the 8 and 9 is Professor Theorem, and we're calling that story arc Mathmagical. And she can move through a portal of the Napoleon Theorem. So she can move wherever there's 2 of those. She can use that as a portal. Dr. Atlas is back and causing more havoc for the twins. And so we can talk more about that when we get closer to having those out. But we are working on things going forward, including other story ideas.
And in the future, we're considering how to introduce even more of a supernatural element through the addition of more yokai, apart from Mocha.
Right. Do you have anything? Okay. Well, you've also written a couple of stories, or had basically the story ideas for a couple of kind of seeing Eli and Marty in separate, but related.
Yeah, I had this idea. I had this idea for a story arc where Marty and Eli are but they're each fighting a yokai simultaneously, and they're away from each other.
Which is, I thought it was really good when I read it. So
yeah.
I'm hoping we get to that soon. Again, it's just that it's time and money to get to move the story forward. So hopefully those answer the questions. We're actually going to put all that in writing, so it may be slightly different if you look out on the website, again, which is FreakSugar. And we appreciate the opportunity to discuss these questions. Hope you enjoy.